Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have my friend Sam on the podcast today. It's a very special day. We will talk about that in a moment. But Sam, welcome to the Remember to Live podcast.
Thank you for this invitation, Corey. I'm very excited.
Yes, yes, yes. And so let's just take a breath in a moment to be here because I know that there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in life. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. So let's just take a moment to get present and be in this moment together. So take a quick breath and just be here in this moment. And we'll kick it off. We'll dive right in and kick it off with a question I like to start all the podcast episodes with when I have guests. And that is, what does it mean to live a life and live one well?
Very cool. Very cool. Good reflection. Good reflection. So for me, Corinne, it's I have to say it's family, friends, and travel.
Yeah.
Family and friends for sure is kind of that that thing where there's the trust, there's that love, the warmth that you have that is so
Mm-hmm.
important. That social, the social connection. And travel for me, I don't know if it's because of my upbringing that I've been hopping the globe since an
Yeah.
early age, and I just enjoy meeting and talking with people, probably because of all this diverse perspectives that you can actually gather, and you can start
Yeah.
seeing that your reality is just one of so many. And so that for me has been kind of a good indicator of when I'm, I mean, that I'm living a good moment and enjoying.
I
So,
love that.
yeah. That's been kind of my guiding principle. And I have to say, because you and I met because of TED,
Mm-hmm.
because of the TEDx in Buckhead, I have to say that the community that group has
Mm.
is that warmth. So
Yeah.
I felt it. It feels really good to be in that group and with the people and have conversations. I've been having, you know, conversations with you, with Tasha, with some of the other speakers, and yeah, it's just great because it's
Yeah.
all these other perspectives and everybody with a keen interest on sharing good things for people. So
Yes.
that's
Oh, I
you know
love
that's part of
that.
the friendship. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yes.
that. And so what I'm hearing is it's anchored in our experience, right? Everything you're talking about is experiencing life, of being in the moment with our family and our friends and sharing that experience and being in the world and sharing that experience and finding the community and the people that you can connect with and commune with and just
Yeah.
really show up to life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we're both on social media. I'm big on LinkedIn because that's been kind of the business end that I
Hmm.
ended up with, and we seem to have communities on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. But it's never the same.
Yeah.
When you meet people face to
Yeah.
face, when you have that shared moment, there's something magic about that. There's something just different, and so that's part of that life thing
Hmm.
that we still cherish. So this is pretty good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And so you mentioned TEDx. It was so fun to be your coach and to hold your hand as you went through that process of making it to the TEDx stage. And let's just take a moment and celebrate because as we're speaking, your talk just went live.
It did. Yeah, that's why I have a big smile on my face today.
Yes. And I just love your topic. And I think it's so timely, especially where we are in this time and space. Um, and just thinking about the power of our words, right? And because we're finding ourselves in a time and space where, especially online, there's a lot of disconnection and there's a lot of divisiveness. And
Hmm.
sometimes we don't think about our words. And there's also a lot of fake words being generated online right now
Yeah.
with just different, bots and fake accounts and things like that. But when we're talking about community and connection, and the power of words. Share a little bit about how you decided on creating a talk that really helped us to connect with the power of our words and how by really understanding that we can change our lives.
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea came from writing. Writing is one of these things that you start and you just don't know what's going to be put on paper.
Mm-hmm.
You have the idea, but when you start developing it, it just goes any which way that it might end up, right?
Yeah.
And I started writing a book maybe 5 years ago. I've written it's my first fiction
Mm-hmm.
book. I've written business books and published business books, but I started writing this book, and the topic was about failure, mostly because, like you and you're coaching professionally. I was coaching as an executive in a company. I was
Mm-hmm.
coaching my employees, mentoring and coaching, sometimes tormentoring and coaching,
Yeah.
but always trying to get them to grow. And so the topic I chose was about failure,
Mm.
because it's a big F word that, in the news today or in the media, you hear a lot: fail fast, fail forward, fail this, fail
Yes.
that. But the people that were coming to me and opening up, they said that word for them was like devastating.
Mm.
And maybe because it was ingrained at an early age or whatever, and they were told they were a failure. And so whatever,
Mm.
if they made a mistake, for them, it was tough. So I
Mm-hmm.
started writing about the topic. And let me tell you, the first manuscripts, because I sent them to an editor, and they pretty much threw them in the garbage,
Mm.
which is part of the journey, right?
Part of the
And so I
journey.
said,
Yes,
well,
it
you're
is.
right. And I said, well, now what? Is that a failure or what, right?
Right. Right.
And then I started realizing that at the end of the day, it's just a word. And so I
Mm.
started with the topic of that, and I started writing, and so if you remember in my talk, I say I interviewed failure, and so I gave it the
Yeah.
spirit of a person, and I'm sitting there writing, and I'm asking failure, who are you? What is it that keeps this power over some people? And
Yeah.
failure answered, I'm just a word.
Mm.
And that's kind of where it came. And then I started, I mean, I've always been surrounded by languages. My mother tongue is Spanish. I had to learn German. I speak some French, some Italian. I speak Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
And the words, they open up worlds, because
Mm.
let's say each culture and each language has words that mean something very specifically that you cannot translate. There's words that just can't
Ah.
be translated. And so I started
Yeah.
thinking, okay, well, that's for and I teach communication, for
Mm-hmm.
example, with others. And I said, well, how do words then impact the way we communicate with ourselves?
Mm.
And I started developing that. I said, well, that's probably something to get out there, and thus the topic. And it's a big topic, very
Yeah.
generic. And then to tie that with just this one very important thing to me. So I'm a LinkedIn learning instructor, and one of the things that we work on as instructors, online instructors, we are always focused for the benefit of the learner.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, whatever you write, whatever you're going to do, it has to be for their benefit, and the way that
Right.
we put it out there. And so I said, how do I put a talk together so that somebody will get something good from my talk?
Yeah.
It's something that I wanted to do, and here we are. It's
Yeah.
one step forward.
Yeah. I think something that you said that's so important is, you know, we're taught a lot of different things as kids about how we speak to people. As we get older, we may change our language when we're in different environments. We're seeing the power of words in bringing people together, but also tearing people apart.
Hmm.
But I think the most important thing you said is that like it starts with the words we say to ourselves,
Hmm.
right? It's like leadership starts with self is something that I talk about a lot. But how we communicate, how we approach others, how we think about the world really is a reflection of how we think about and talk to ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, or I mean, it's the reality is we live with negative bias. Our brains are wired
Mm-hmm.
to what I mentioned, to attract Velcro. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's we're negatively biased because our brain, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, our brains are trying to keep us safe, protect us,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the first thing is survival.
Yeah.
And so but we forget that,
Yeah.
and so we get attached. We get attached to the negative, and so when we started the podcast, when we started with a breath,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the breath is one of those things that can help us um, pause that fast brain that is continuously trying to protect us
Yeah.
by overthinking and the self doubt and all this other stuff. And with the breath, we're able to pause
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Oh, wait a second. The negative bias is acting. What else can happen here? What can we gain from this situation that can benefit us instead of letting that craziness,
Yeah.
run its mouth?" You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I
So.
studied positive intelligence, and in that framework, it's our saboteurs talking to us, right? And
Uh
recognizing
huh.
that our saboteurs were established to protect us.
Yeah.
And as we get older, though, and as we become adults, we don't necessarily need that protection anymore, but we're conditioned
Yeah.
to think that way. And one of my favorite ways to think about it, because we can't necessarily turn it off, but we can, like you said, pause and be conscious of what are our thoughts? Are they real? Are they serving us? And then also, how do we react to things that trigger these thoughts? But one of my
Hmm.
favorite things that I keep with me is from Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. And in it, she's talking about fear. And so, for those who don't know, she's the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love that turned into a big movie. And she has a book about kind of creativity called Big Magic. And she talks about fear, and she says, I learned that I had to hold space for it. And she gives the metaphor of being in a car and says, I have a space for fear. It sits in the back seat, but it can't change the radio station and it can never drive. So, like, it can be there, it can have
Hmm.
its say, but it doesn't get to
Yeah.
run and control things.
Yeah. 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 It's that's exactly the way. So that's a great way. I like that. I like that Seneca quote that says, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And
Mm,
I tell my kids that, and they repeat that to me because I mean, I'm human too, and I fall into the negative bias, and they'll say, "Hey, what
yeah.
words are you whispering to yourself, Dad?" I say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we suffer more in imagination than in reality." And
Yeah.
it's this. Hey, when was the last time you were chased by a white tiger?
Right. Right.
When was the last
Yeah.
time? And heck, I don't think I've ever seen one. So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of what we're being, we're trying to protect ourselves from, and at the end of
Hmm.
the day, that we're you know pretty safe, relatively safe. There's no
Yeah.
wild animals chasing us, so that's
Yeah.
something to always reflect on and remember. But it's tough, that
It is.
it's tough. It's pausing is tough, and I have to say, talking about cultures, I've been in the U.S. for wow, this time around for over 25 years. I went to school in the U.S.
Hmm.
As a student, and that you start to see some differences where we live here with constant speed. If you're
Yeah.
idle for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
it's like you're wasting time. Whereas
Mm.
if you're in another place of the world, another part of the world, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to have
Yes.
dinner and enjoy the conversation. It's not like, hey, let's eat, bring me
Hmm.
the food quickly, let's
Hmm.
pay and get out. No, you want to
Yeah.
enjoy the moment. We have
Yeah.
such a hard time doing that here. I mean, not all of us. I'm generalizing,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of that. It's speed, speed, speed. It's like fast food and fast
Yeah.
this and like so. So I think it's important to reflect and say it's okay to pause. It's
Hmm.
okay to slow down. And I mean, yeah, I know that you do meditation as well, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so in meditation, that's just that's the work, pausing
Yeah.
and just sitting there and not doing anything. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So
think sometimes we don't even recognize the thoughts in our, like, we're on such a hectic pace, and the thoughts were constantly, worried about the future or fretting about the past or replaying it in our minds, that we're rarely ever like right here in the moment. And then put that into a society that's constantly go, go, go. Speed is the badge of honor, quickness, speed,
yep,
sleep when I die, all of these things. Um, and so when you do get to experience different parts of the world and different cultures, and so I haven't lived in other parts of the world, but I definitely do enjoy traveling, and you get to realize that there are places where there is a different pace of life and people do slow down and connect, and
yep,
the places where the people live the longest and are the happiest are anchored in that community and that connection and in movement, and not like sitting at a desk all day, and having real conversations and getting to know each other and knowing their neighbors and knowing everyone at all of the local places. And I feel like we're starting to want to get back to that a little bit here. Like, I feel like post pandemic, we're starting to see more of a gravitation towards community and getting back together and gathering. And I'm just hoping that that continues and that we don't start going back to a time where we're even more disconnected and not
yep,
fostering community.
yeah, yeah, totally. There's so going back to the topic of words,
Mm-hmm.
I borrowed a lot of words from my business or my technical background, which is helping companies reduce waste and do improvement. And I learned a lot of this stuff from the Toyota people at Toyota, Japanese folks at Toyota. So they talk about Kaizen, which
Mm-hmm.
is always looking to improve, always to do something good. But there's another word, and the Kaizen, the concept of Kaizen is really cool because it you're talking about fear. It's one of those things that helps you avoid fear because you're thinking of doing small steps
Mm-hmm.
and not a big goal all of a sudden. But
Mm-hmm.
there's another word that I really have borrowed, and it has to do with meditation, which is Hansei, which is
Mm.
self-reflection. And
Ah.
and one of the things we try to show leaders and future leaders is to share with them that it's okay to pause, to do some self-reflection during your workday.
Yeah.
So typically, if you're walking around and you're the boss and you're walking around, you see somebody at their desk and they're just not doing anything. There's you immediately you're judging. You're saying they're slacking off.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
They're slacking off. Um, and what we're saying is like, no. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
have to pause to reflect and take a moment to say, how should I do this? Did I do well? Who should I go ask for help? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I'm sure that there's people that are going to abuse of some time, but at the end of the day, I think Hansei is something that we all need. We can all benefit from, not only at work but during the day. I mean,
Yeah.
Hansei is good. So I mean, I'll do a lot of Hansei while I'm cooking because it's
Yeah.
it's it's not it's not real work, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
there, preparing a meal for my wife, for my family, and it's a moment to reflect. And I think those moments are very important. we can't
Yeah.
we can't just be running around all the time. I think that's more of an excuse to avoid, sometimes for some, maybe trying to avoid reality or something like that. But I'm not a
Yeah.
psychologist, so I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we do spend a lot of time uh, either distracting ourselves or just not even sitting with ourselves, because sometimes it can be uncomfortable if we haven't done it in a long time. In having that mindfulness is really important, right? To be able to
yep,
pause. And I was, I was an executive for a long time, and I would encourage people, like, put thinking time in your calendar. Like,
yep,
we're operating off of a system that was designed for how long a body could stand at a factory line, right? Like the 9 to 5, all of that came from how long can bodies do body work. But most of us are doing knowledge work now, and our brain doesn't operate that way. Our brain
Yeah.
actually has to pause. Otherwise, we're not being productive. We're not able to be creative. We're not able to be innovative. It's actually producing a negative ROI for companies who are just trying to look at the bottom line. We need time to get up from our desk, to see different things, to be inspired, to take in nature, to just pause and breathe and sort out our thoughts. Because as you know, our brains are moving a mile a minute. And if we don't slow down and sort through it and give ourselves time to just like let it settle, let some new ideas come in, then we just don't move forward at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, I've seen change, little by little, depending on the leadership and their
Yeah.
level of understanding this. But it's still, in a lot of places. I mean, I left the industry in 2013, so it's about 11 years that I've been out doing consulting
Mm-hmm.
and training, corporate training, and a lot of the companies, unfortunately, they don't live that way. And after COVID,
Yeah.
Corrine, a lot of they let go of a lot of folks,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a hard time bringing people in to work in some of these environments, and there's
Yeah.
not enough people to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's difficult, but I see it the opposite. I think that the pause needs to happen, let the people
Mm-hmm.
rest, and the efficiency will come. So,
Yeah.
but it's a difficult formula to
Yeah.
instill.
Yeah. I think we're definitely going to see changes, continual changes over the next several years of just how we do work, because it's just the way
Mhm.
that we've done work doesn't work anymore. So we're going to keep
Yeah.
seeing it. We're seeing so many people learn many different ways to make a living. There's not one cookie cutter, here's the ladder, here's the box, this is the only way to be successful way of living. We're way more connected to different people and different cultures. And I think that we're learning from each other, and
Hmm.
we're learning how to be more present in our lives. And we're also, a lot of us are at the age where we are taking care of our parents who came up in a generation where you did get like one job and then you got a pension. And then there was this
Yeah.
idea of retirement and you were taken care of. We don't have that really anymore. And we're also seeing our parents in real time live end of life regrets. And I think for a lot of us, especially me, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast was, seeing my mom live real end of life regrets and like having that and coming to this reality that, oh, there is a such thing as too late. Like we may always be able to dream,
Hmm.
but eventually we won't be able to do. Like eventually our body and our minds aren't going to be able to do the things that they used to be. And
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to live now and be conscious and intentional about how we choose to live each day, how we choose to engage with each other, how we choose to connect and communicate so that we can make life and work good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. And I think you're talking about choice and agency. We have to
Mm-hmm.
choose. So my wife retired in December. She worked for the school system here in South Carolina for I think 15 years, special ed and special needs children.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's an energy suck, because that's like,
Mm-hmm.
so she retired, and I'm 66, and I'm thinking, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I just want to, as long as I have my health, I want to continue learning. So I'm on a learning journey,
Yeah.
and give back. So
Yeah.
this I've been working on this motto that is, I'm too old to grow up, I'm too young to stop learning, and delighted to give back. And
Oh,
so I'm
I
trying
love
to live
that.
that. And every moment I get, and it's sharing, like, your knowledge, because you have an incredible corporate background also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so sharing this knowledge with the younger ones,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time understanding that they are, what you were saying, they're seeing a completely different world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling my kids, go out there and find the next thing you're going to be doing, because every 5 years, every 7 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's going to change. The pace has picked up, and you
Yeah.
have to be nimble. You have to be adaptable, flexible, and it happens through learning. I think the time that we spend on TikTok or watching the news is better spent,
Yeah.
learning. I'm a nerd, by nature, and I'll just be reading books and watching masterclass and
Hmm.
learning videos and trying to absorb,
Yeah.
so that, because I'm fortunate enough that I have the time and the availability to do this, but then use that to give back, use
Yeah.
that to share and say, hey, here's a different way of seeing things. Here's something that's happening in the world that you should pay attention to, because you could be doing this and earning a
Hmm.
living, and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
the pace has definitely picked up, in a very crazy way.
Yeah.
So
And I do want to just highlight, because I do think a lot of us grew up with this idea or this notion of like, give 40 years of your life to be able to then live, right? Like then you get to sit and relax for 20 years. But the reality is, for our brain and our body to stay healthy, like sitting in a chair watching TV for 20 years is not good for us, number one. And
yeah,
number two, like, just because there's a quote unquote retirement age in this country, or we've been programmed and conditioned to shoot for everything we do, right? For your 401k, what age do you want to retire? We've just been drilled this idea of retirement,
yeah,
but life is not over because you gave decades of your life to a company or to work. Like, as long as you have breath in your body, you get to experience, you get to live, you get to find joy. And I think it's just amazing that you are finding all these different ways to not only continue to learn and grow and have fun in your life. I love that in your 60s, you said, you know what, I want to do a TEDx talk, because I think so many people out there might think, oh, I'm too old for something like that, or I've already had a career, or whatever they're telling themselves, where they kind of give up on these things that they might not have done or not given themselves a chance to consider for themselves. And you're like, I am excited. This is just a new chapter and I get to
yeah.
watch it unfold. What do you have to say to kind of inspire people that you can do and be and create at any age?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of this has to do with the way I was brought up. See,
Mm,
my grandfather brought me up. My dad left my mom, like, when I was a toddler, um, and my grandfather, who was a Holocaust survivor, ended up in Colombia after the war. He was 50 years old, and he started a company
mm,
when he was 50. I was lucky to work for him for about 10 years, before he passed.
mm-hmm,
And he worked until the last day, until he died, pretty much. He was like 86 or 87, uh, or maybe older. And he said, what am I going to, what am I going to do? And he said, I will keep on planting seeds, so that the trees grow and provide shade for somebody, even if I'm not going to be around.
mm,
Um, and I've heard, he used to say that. He used to say, so he had so many different proverbs and things that he shared.
mm-hmm.
But that was one of the things I learned. He said, what he said, what am I going to do? I need to keep on building things for others,
Yeah.
and he was a mentor to all his employees. He just kept on building leaders, and so it has to do with that upbringing. And for me, I can't understand the mindset, even though I've been in the U.S. for a long time. I can't understand the mindset of retiring because of what you mentioned. Oh, you get to 65, and then
Yeah.
and then that's what you do. I said, who said that? Where
Right.
is it written? Where is it?
Right.
And I could. I could, but no. Hey, next week I'm going to California. I'm going to shoot another LinkedIn learning course. I'm going to be in front of the teleprompter, and and I'm writing 2 more courses, and if I can get away with even more, and it's fun,
Yeah.
so why not?
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And
I love
let me
that.
share just one story with you. So when I left the industry, Corinne, um, in 2013, I was an automotive executive, and I left, um, and I knew I wanted to do consulting or training or whatever. One of my first customers was BMW here in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I was very lucky to get in, and we were running workshops, training some of the folks at BMW with some of their very important suppliers from countries from all over the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would train them, and I mean they have a very difficult schedule.
Yeah.
Automotive is a very difficult thing, and it's a very fast paced, very stressful. And in these workshops, people used to walk in and look gray and heavy, and they weren't happy.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the first day, they were smiling. The second
Mm.
day of the workshop, we had them dancing, and
Yes.
and then at the end of the workshop, they would come up and hug me to thank me.
Yeah.
And I would come home and tell my wife. I said, "Hey, they hugged me today. They were very happy with the stuff they learned. It gave them something, an outlet to de-stress, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't only the pay, it
Yeah.
wasn't only the fees that we were receiving. When we say we, is I had to form a small team of trainers,
Mm-hmm.
and because they were very big groups, and for me, coming home and having that feeling of, hey, I helped somebody today, and
Yes.
or on LinkedIn when somebody from India or Pakistan or Dubai sends me a note, say, yeah, I loved your course, I learned so much, thank you. I
Yeah.
can use this in my office, and
Mm-hmm.
blah blah blah. It says, for me, that's like that's part of the happiness, that
Yeah.
you get. You gave back, and you're thankful also that you're able to do that, and
Yeah.
then the thanks that you get in back. So it's great.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. Age is just a number.
It is. It is. I love that. Like I totally get what you're talking about too. Because when I go into companies now and do play sessions, and watching them remember how to play and like have belly laughs with their coworkers and light up when you step in, they're kind of like, oh gosh, here's another training, and they don't think that there's going to be any joy or fun in it. But when you add the joy and the fun, and they remember what that's like, and they connect, and they come up and they're thanking you for this nugget, like they walk away with learnings, but more so they got some joy, which gives us
Yeah.
joy, right? Because the more we can foster joy, the more we receive joy, and the more our cups all stay full, and we can help each other with the overflow, and even if
Yep.
it's just a few people. And that makes me think of, in your talk, you have your own word that you made up that I think is so cool, that I
Which
think
one? Which
applies to this.
the influencer or
Yes, the
yeah,
influencer. Do
the
you want to
influencer.
share the concept behind influencer?
Yeah. So in the talk, I mentioned that all words are made up, and that new generations make up words. My kids taught me cap, no cap, and riz and simp, and all these words that you hear on social media. And so I decided I'd make up my own word, and I made up the word influencer. Um, and it's put together, the word few and
Mm-hmm.
influencer, and it gives you the power to uh, influence the vital few, starting with yourself.
Mm,
And this is the power that you get, the power of words. And so I kind of give the call to action is, be an influencer, choose your own words that will actually help you. And maybe that's what I whisper to myself when I'm saying, hey, I'm 66, so what? What does that mean? So.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a it's a good concept. I'll I One of the things that I teach, Corrine, is lean, the concepts of lean, which comes from Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly for, well, it used to be mostly for manufacturing, but I consider myself a leanfluencer. And so I train people. For example, one of the things I teach is problem solving
Mm-hmm.
methodologies. You don't have to be an engineer.
Right.
I have, I have a couple of problem solving methodologies that are very simple for anybody to learn in HR or finance, or, in these departments that usually you don't imagine you have to participate in. And so as a leanfluencer, I consider that as something where I can teach the vital few how to solve problems. And I
Mm.
say
Yeah.
I'm developing people one problem solver at a time. And this is how you build
Yes.
a community of problem solvers, and then you get all this power of diversity that you need to solve today's problems, because you can't solve them from one perspective. You got to have the diverse perspective. So that kind of ties into making up words. So
Ah. Well, and
yeah,
I love that, especially now. Like, let's make up joyful words. Like, if there's people spewing words that aren't very nice and we don't really want to hear them, first of all, we can protect our energy, we can protect our peace, but we can also
yeah,
have fun. I just don't think we have enough fun anymore. Like, let's
yeah,
play. And like you said in your talk, like when you look up the amount of words that are removed from the dictionary every year, like we don't think about that. We don't think that, like, oh, there's words added and removed from the dictionary every year. So that means we get creative license to be
yeah.
able to use our words in ways that make our lives better.
Absolutely. When life gives you demons, just make demonade.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's a perfect button to move into some of just the fun questions that I like to ask as we wrap up our conversations, if that sounds good.
Sure. As
Yeah.
long as they're fun.
Yes, yes, definitely. The first one is, what's currently your favorite part of the day?
uh, Probably 5 a.m. Um,
Oh.
when it's quiet, and I get to drink my first cup of coffee, and it's
Mm,
usually the only cup of coffee. But you know, uh,
yeah.
my wife is also waking up. We sit down. We're drinking our coffee. We don't even have to talk. We're just enjoying the moment. And as of late, I guess for the past 6 months, that is my meditation hour. So I'm getting out. I'm just sitting, doing my meditation, and I do a long meditation. I use the power of the sutras to go very deep, and that's so 5 a.m. is it, and less noise. The sun hasn't come out yet. It's still kind of
Yeah.
out there, and yeah, it's quiet. So I love it.
Mm. Yes, I love that. You fill your cup first, right? That's one of my mantras is fill your cup first. When you first wake up in the
Yes.
morning, fill your cup
Yeah.
first so you can pour into others for the rest of the day. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect moment for Hansei, for
Mm,
you get all you that reflection comes in, and you start seeing things differently. So it's great. It's really a good moment.
I love that. The next is, what's your current cozy?
Oh, swimming.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, swimming. Well, it would be also the cup of coffee in the morning, but I'd
Yeah.
have to say, so there's two different versions of my swimming. So I go to the Y, which
Mhm,
is close by. They have a big swimming pool. But I travel a lot, like you, Corrine. I travel a lot,
mhm,
and often the hotels will have very small pools.
mhm.
So I have a stretch cord. It's a bungee.
Mm,
They sell these on Amazon. I've had mine for 20 years. You tie yourself with a belt, and you tie the bungee to the end of the pool, to the stairs, to the
mhm.
to the like the railing on the stairs, and you're swimming with the stretch cord away. So here's the advantage: you get to close your eyes because you're not going to hit the other side of the pool.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So for one thing, you're getting your workout, but at the same time, I'm doing my meditation and my yoga in the pool. So
Mm,
that's when I travel. I'm usually doing that, and then
mhm.
lately I've just you're swimming in a lane, you're doing your laps. there's no phone allowed. You can't go in there with your phone.
Right.
So it's a
Right.
moment of quiet, cozy, the water surrounding you, the magic of the water, whatever it is, and my kids think I'm a little bit cuckoo. They're probably right, but two of the places where I was assigned for a long time, one of them was England,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one was San Diego. Both on the beach. I was
Mm-hmm.
both places on the beach, but very cold water.
Mm-hmm.
That's my cozy,
Mm.
the cold water.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
I,
It's
I
good
mean,
stuff.
cold. As we're learning, cold plunges are good for you, and I think you win the award for the most creative answer to that question. I love
long
it.
answer, but it's that's my cozy. So
You know what? And this is what I love about this podcast is we get to share our different lived experiences and inspire people and see like we all just create these lives and live in different ways and we can learn from each other and try new things. And so I love that. The next question is what's your go-to feel good song?
ooh, you know, it depends on the moment. Um, I'll listen to old rock like Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Usually Queen. Many of the songs. Um, as far as creativity, for the creativity moment, I'll listen to Prince.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because
Mm-hmm.
he is the master of creativity for me. I
He
mean,
is.
is unbelievable. So I'll listen to to his stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty. I mean, it
Yeah.
really depends on the moment.
Yeah.
And now on Fridays, we will do a Happy Friday at home, and it will be salsa
Oh, I love that.
or
Yes.
cumbia or Latin
Mm-hmm.
music, and really live it up. But in the car, I'll listen to Queen and and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. I actually have you can't see it, but I have a poster of Prince right up here above me on the
Oh
wall to inspire my creativity. Me and my
yeah.
improv team, we went to Paisley Park together. And just to be in that
Oh
energy, it was pretty cool because we perform in Minneapolis on a probably around once a year.
ah
So I love that. The next question is, what do you do for your 80 or 90-year-old self now?
health,
Mm.
workout, health, take care of yourself. Um, every moment I get, I'm trying to do something every day, at least 20-25 minute workout. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes intensive, and sometimes relaxing, but just get the bones moving, eat healthy, whatever that means for
Yeah.
but eating healthy and spending moments with others. Spending moments with others. I'm very fortunate. My wife and I have been married for, gosh, 37 years, 36 or 37, and we have we have a lot of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just feels good. And so I'm thinking that now, as we move on, we're thinking, where are we going to go? Because you said 80s and 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's different, right? I think in
Yeah.
70, 75 is one thing. 80s and 90s, you really have to be in a place where you have community,
Mm-hmm.
where you can move around without having to depend on a car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we're already thinking about, where's that going to be,
Yeah.
so that you can get out wherever it is, and have your needs close
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It all comes back to community. It sure does. So the
Yes.
final question is, how do you remember to live?
How do I remember?
How do you remember
Hmm.
to live?
Hmm. I think, if I understand your question, I'm going to go back to how we started the podcast with the breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, it's that's one of the things that helps me pause,
Mm.
is taking that breath. I was listening to a YouTube, uh, somebody talking on YouTube. I don't remember who it was. He said, when you're having a moment and you need to get back to yourself, and to live life, the first word out of your mouth should be your breath. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm there listening. I'm saying, I've been talking about words, and he's saying the first word out of your mouth should be your breath.
Yes. Oh, that is the perfect button for our
Right?
conversation. That is,
Yeah, yeah. And so,
yeah.
yeah, and you're talking about the buttons. You remember the that was easy button?
Mhm. Yes,
Where you
yeah, the
that.
Staples
So
commercials, yeah.
I'm thinking of ordering some buttons. I don't know exactly what I'm going to put on it yet, but it will have something to do with my talk.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
to have people remember that they have that button that they can press,
Mhm.
um, and get back to life, because it's like you can get dragged in
Oh,
so
man.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah,
get
yeah.
dragged in very easy. So yeah, so it's so the breath probably would be. Yeah. So did I win $1 million?
I'll send you a million energetic dollars, right? It's so good. I'll give you all the good, positive energy in the world, and we will call in the millions. And so this has been such a great conversation. How can people connect with you? How can they learn more about the Interview with a Failure book? What's the name of the TEDx talk? I'll put all of this in the show notes as well, so they can
Oh,
just link
thank you.
to it. But let them know how they can reach you and learn more.
Thank you, Corrine. Yeah, so samyankelevitch.com. If you look on the screen, you see my name. Just put samyankelevitch.com. That's my website. It's not updated, but you can see kind of where I am there.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the book is called An Interview with Failure. It's on Amazon, and both on Kindle paperback, and there's an Audible version that I
Oh,
recorded
wow.
with a female voice actress as well. So that's on there, and I'm very active on LinkedIn. I will start to get active on the other social media, because that's the thing to do, and with the TED Talks and all that other stuff. But watch
Yeah.
my TED Talk. It's choose your words, change your life.
Mm.
Discover the power sitting on the tip of your tongue. You
Yeah.
don't need to go any further. You don't need to, I mean, it's like we have so much power right there.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, that's probably the best way to connect with me, and I look forward to doing that.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, my friend. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Corrine, for the opportunity. Lots of fun. This was fun.
Yes. Yes.